Recently, I conducted a phone interview with actor Jeffrey Weissman. Now, Jeffrey Weissman was in Back to the Future's Part 2 and 3, taking over the role of the wonderful George McFly, brought to life by Crispin Glover. Here are some highlights from that interview. All right, what's going on, Jeffrey? Or should I call you Mr. Weissman?
Yes, well, it depends. If you want to call me Jeffrey, you probably should buy me a drink first or something. How are you, TC?
I'm doing awesome there, Mr. Weissman. As you can tell, I'm too cheap to buy a drink, but that's all right. Now, we're talking about fantastic career. Of course, this is my good longtime personal friend, Mr. Jeffrey Weissman, who's been acting now for what? Over 25 years, correct, Jeffrey?
35.
35 years. Well, I didn't want to age you there, buddy, but 35 years, and you have been in some of the biggest movies of all time. You've been in the Twilight Zone movie. Which segment were you you were in?
George Miller's segment, the Nightmare at 30,000 Feet. I've been in some of the least seen movies of all time, too.
Well, we're going to get into that later, but I want to make you sound like this is the greatest career of all time. But unbelievable. Were you around, speaking of the Twilight Zone, were you there around when the incident took place, the tragedy?
Terrible tragedy with the kids in Vic Morrow took place about 3 months before I even auditioned for the role that I played in that. When my agent called me to audition for it, I was completely surprised that Spielberg decided to finish that film, because it was shocking that Jennifer Jason Leigh's pop got. Anyway, yeah. So no, I wasn't around when that happened.
But that was your version was the one with John Lithgow that was based on the classic one with William Shatner.
Yes, with Donna Dixon and Abby Lane and J.D. Johnston, and John Lithgow was brilliant.
I have to agree, that was probably the greatest segment of the Twilight Zone movie.
Well, there's no argument.
There is no argument there. Then you went on to Johnny Dangerously in 1984, a very underrated comedy by Amy Heckerling.
Oh, it was originally a musical.
It was?
Yeah, it was funny because, making a living as an actor right there at that time wasn't in the cards yet for me, so I was doing any job that I could, and I sometimes would cater. I'd cater parties. I remember catering the parties for the Olympics that year when it was in L.A. And did all the ABC Sports parties. And anyway, but one of the parties we catered was the wrap party for Johnny Dangerously, and so I found myself serving drinks to Amy Heckerling and Michael Keaton, and I remember Michael leaning over to Amy and saying, "Wasn't he in the film?" It was very amusing.
And what part did you play in that film for the fans out there?
No, I played the T-shirt vendor, the I Heart Johnny T-shirt.
That is correct. I Heart Johnny T-shirts. Now, do you actually have one of those? Did you keep one of those from the set?
I did.
Unbelievable. You have Michael Keaton sign it, sell it on eBay, and retire?
No. I think that shirt actually. I think the mice may have eaten that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I should have got Keaton's autograph on it. That would have been smart.
Give us the story about how you took over the role of George McFly in Back to the Future from Crispin Glover.
Well, I wasn't really necessarily told that I would be taking over the role. They met with me and started doing makeup tests, and then an audition. It was actually a makeup guy who told me that Crispin was out, and I was like, "You must be joking." I just couldn't imagine them doing it without him, because I thought he was so brilliant in the first film. I found out at the 11th hour on a Friday before supposedly starting shooting on a Monday, and told my agents, this is more than a photo double body stand-in thing. Hold out for some good money, which is another story. But nonetheless, it was very exciting for me. I mean, on one hand, I was very disappointed and sorry that it didn't work out, because I like Crispin's work, but I was also very excited to work on the project. It was great. It was a good, fun cast to be with, and everyone worked very hard and were centered and focused, and seemed like enjoying each other's company.
Now, can you give us a detailed about all the prosthetic makeup that went into creating you as George McFly? I mean, how many hours in the makeup chair did you have to sit?
3.5, 4 hours a day before being called on to the set. I'd report to makeup at about 4:30 in the morning to be ready on set by 8:30 or 9 o'clock.
Now, did you study? Did you have to sit there and actually go through the motions that Crispin did in part one, or did you add your own version of George to it?
Well, when we went back to the 1950s, the Chasing Biff with the Sports Almanac and all that stuff, we had to recreate the scenes from part one to make it consistent with the story. So naturally, we would, Tom Wilson and Leah Thompson, they're looking at their stuff, from the first film to recreate it accurately, as I did too for recreating George's stuff. In the McFly household of the future, though, that was pretty much our stuff. Though when Crispin was out, they had to make a lot of adjustments. Seamus in part three was supposedly going to be played by Crispin, and so they switched that up. Instead of me playing it, they had Michael play it, and then with different things in the McFly household of 2015, there were, I think, more lines, more things for business for Crispin to do, which they adjusted. They gave me less and less, it seemed, and I wasn't necessarily a part of a lot of the script readings. I don't think they invited me to any of the script readings, so it was unfortunate. I came up with a few things, though, in rehearsals, like when I'm hanging upside down at the door, and Fox's Marlene opens the door, because of those orange hot pants that they put him in, my head being the same level, it looked like a big pumpkin to me. So how's Granddaddy's Little Pumpkin came out.
I remember seeing Back to the Future Part 2, and I knew going in that Crispin wasn't going to be in it, but I thought your portrayal was right up there. I mean, unless you didn't know, you didn't know.
I didn't know.
You didn't know. Well, let me tell you something. A lot of people out there didn't know, and that is a testament to your acting ability there, Mr. Weissman.
Oh, thank you. No, I, in fact, worked on a film yesterday, and an actor who's a seasoned vet, he when he found out that I was in that role, he said, I knew something was different, but I couldn't, wow. I was like, well, there you are.
Unbelievable. Now, before you actually took over the role, did you have to, did you talk to Crispin at all? Was he aware? Obviously, he was aware he wasn't doing the movie, but...
Sure, he was aware. He's not going to get his $1 million in his co-star billing or whatever he was holding out for. He probably wanted some script approval. I'm not sure, but I had called him also when I was up for it, because we had worked together on a film at the American Film Institute a year before he did the first Back to the Future film, and I called him up and left him a message. Help me out here. I'm about to have, my family's going to have another kid. I could use the work. Let me be your photo double. And I didn't hear back from him, of course, until he decided to sue at the end of when Part 3 came out.
Unbelievable. Now, Robert Zemeckis, one of the greatest directors of all time, I mean, he actually hid you away from the camera, so you really didn't see many close-ups of it, and it was a great illusion, I thought. I mean, you were probably the best special effect in that movie.
From your lips.
There you go. Unbelievable. Now, speaking of lips, you're talking about a big payoff. I would have given my right leg to be George McFly in that movie. You locked lips with Leah Thompson.
Well, I'm wearing a bunch of prosthetics. I kind of felt sorry for her because she's, sure, we're kissing, but it's like prosthetics. It's mask. I sort of felt sorry for her. It must have felt weird for her.
Confirm or deny? I saw an interview that Leah slipped you the tongue.
I can't confirm that. Not in public, no.
Okay, well, we'll have to wait for the Jeffrey Weissman autobiography then. Now, you've taken this George McFly character, and you've gone all over the world to meet the fans from coast to coast and border to border. What's that experience like, 20-plus years later, of the fans coming up to you saying, I can't believe that wasn't Crispin Glover, and you did an unbelievable job?
Well, that's the biggest payoff for my participation in those films is the fan base. It has been unfortunate that because of the controversy and Spielberg and Zemeckis sort of trying to and Canton and company trying to get away with whatever they wanted to pull on him, that me getting cut in the middle and brushed aside for any other work with those guys kind of sucks. But the biggest payoff is the fan base. I recently was at a fan convention, and I had fans from 14 different countries come up and want my autograph and want to talk with me and tell me how much they enjoyed my work in those films. And for me, that's the biggest payoff. Just the really great connection with humanity on that level.
And that's what it's all about. And speaking of your humanitarian contributions, you have been a big advocate for the Parkinson's cure for Michael J. Fox.
Yeah, I do a lot of different charities, and have raised quite a bit of money for Team Fox and the Parkinson's Research Foundation that Michael founded.
Well, Jeffrey, for the people out there that want to get in contact with you, what's your big website?
Oh yeah, JeffreyWeissman.com. You take a look. I got lots of rare photos or links to stuff that I've done that you can only see online. Give me a shout.
Unbelievable. Once again, JeffreyWeissman.com. Thank you so much for being on the program, pal.
Love you, TC, and I mean it.
I know.